Hi there and welcome to Fellowship of the Ring Pull. It's been a bit of a technical challenge with me pressing the wrong buttons. If you were just on Instagram, looking at Instagram Live, my phone's just run out of juice. Normal service will resume shortly, but if you're here, you're here. I'm also joined by a whole bunch of people on Google Meet. If you ever want to join us live on Google Meet, it's the same address every week. Good thing to do is if we cut over to my screen, Allan, if you go down to the hub here on our website, there's all sorts of exciting stuff going on. I'll return to the Blagsheets, which are going really well. But also, if you go down here, Fellowship of the Ring Pull, there's all sorts of links there to the YouTube address, Slido, which is what you can use to ask questions anonymously, and the Google Meet if you want to appear in person, take part in the discussion, raise some questions, all of that kind of stuff. It's very open Meet with people sharing, me sharing some horror stories. I've got lots to get through today, actually, which is a lot of fun. And I will be slightly distracted until my phone comes back on, but I'm told it is charging. So, I mean, I guess the first thing I want to talk about, which I missed in, and I guess Simon, yeah, you're letting people in, brilliant. We've got Simon, who is currently, I think, in Glasgow, is moderating questions from Slido, and is going to slack me from time to time with questions that come up from there. And I believe the competition winner, Noah, are you online yet? Are you on the... No, I can't see anyone. I can see Jay calling... Oh, Noah, there you are in your motor. How are you doing? Do you want to unmute your microphone and say hi?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations, a really wonderful piece. And I'm always really thankful when I hear a piece that really celebrates the effort that the team here has put into making a quite believable piano sound. So how did you approach it? It sounds very live. Did you do it to click, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I actually, so whenever The Attic first came out, I was working on that piece as it was, but had a lot of different stuff come up and kind of put it on the shelf. But when I saw the competition come back, I just kind of sat down at my keyboard and just kind of one take, finished the song and got it ready. It's kind of a fun experience, but also a little bit surreal after everything.
So where are you speaking from, and where are you driving to? And I hope that we're not distracting you. That would be awful, wouldn't it?
Oh no!
Suddenly there's a tap on the window and a gun.
Yeah, I am actually a teacher, so I'm just currently on my way back, so I can't be on here for too long. We're actually in the middle of our day in it's Arkansas in the United States.
Brilliant stuff. And the last time I spoke to our cousins from America, things were less decided than they are now. I'm not going to get onto that subject.
Yeah.
But it's been, I don't know, I mean, the one thing I do, my one takeaway as an international spectator, and I think it does tie in with our trade, is... I personally feel that the impact of podcasts was not meaningless on the election, and one candidate's embracing of those. And I think it just goes to show it's very interesting as a composer. I've been speaking to a lot of composers who have gone through what I think is kind of what I've been referring to as a bit of the streaming wars gold rush. So, Apple, Amazon, Netflix has been commissioning these enormous series. And from what I'm hearing from the coalface is these streaming services are starting to put out a lot of repeats now, and production has slowed. I know that the strike had an impact, but I don't think we can underestimate the amount of. There is a limited amount of time in the day, and I think with gaming and listening to podcasts and looking at YouTube, I think that it's not just that the viewership has been diluted across traditional media, across streaming, but across media in general. And I think it does point towards this slightly more focused appetite people have for stuff like YouTube and stuff. And I think that YouTube's entered into an interesting phase where it's not overproduced. It's not stuff falling down the uncanny valley. It's just really, really interesting stuff. I mean, a great example of stuff that you can't find online is there is I was just completely lost my train of thought. It was a very loud motorcycle outside. It sounded like it was about to drive into the annex. There's just a fantastic documentary about the making of the Abyss. And I think the reason why it doesn't exist in normal media is because it's kind of dated and the aspect ratio is bad. I think it's only 720p. But if ever you want to see a documentary about the making of a film and the lengths they went to, it made Apocalypse Now look like a tea party. So, I don't think the power of YouTube, the power of podcasts should be underestimated at the moment. And something that I'm getting from a lot of composers at the moment is this slightly begrudging, we've all got to whiten our teeth and appear on YouTube now. And my answer is always, well, if you don't, the people that you're up against, that you're competing against to a certain degree, or pitching with, against, tendering against, they will be doing that stuff. And I have found that I have been getting markedly more commissions since the launch of my YouTube channel. And I don't think it's through any... I don't think it's actually because of the YouTube channel. All it is a regular appearance online, being kind of honest about myself, has meant that people feel they get to know you a bit. And I think that if it's down to yourself in a competitive environment, and I always maintain that to the untrained ear, one orchestral demo sounds pretty much like the next one. I think if it's down to someone they feel they know, albeit through YouTube, and someone they don't, in this world where we're all working remotely, particularly composers, then I think it's more likely to fall to those who have made a presence online. And I don't think it's necessarily about kind of influencing and gimmicking and TikTok and all of that kind of stuff. I think it's just representing your work in some manner. I know, for example, a good friend of mine has recently been working with Dan Keane and also Jacob Collier. And I think that they've got a really big track going on, something really, really big very soon. And I think that certainly where Dan Keane is concerned, that will be a lot to do with his presence on YouTube, as is Jacob Collier, I would argue as well. Which brings me back to Quincy Jones, because we lost him, and I wasn't able to speak about that last week. And whilst I won't make a habit of doing a roll call of people that we've lost on these type of broadcasts, I have to say that, I mean, with people like Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Prince, they're Madonna, they're kind of once a generation. But I think someone like Quincy Jones is once an epoch. And I don't know if you've watched the documentary about his life, but I had no idea about his involvement with Frank Sinatra until actually my friend, the producer here, Allan, started talking me through it. And obviously that reference all the time that Frank Sinatra would be referring to this guy called Q was, of course, Quincy. I'm going to return to Quincy Jones as a technician, but I think that because of his the beginning of his career was very much that big band, putting a band together, rehearsing, recording them. Something that I think that he very much represented was that art of a producer of putting people together and drawing stuff out. He wasn't necessarily playing trumpet on anything. In fact, possibly the only connection I share with Quincy Jones is that he had a brain aneurysm. He actually had two. I only had one. But I believe he stopped playing the trumpet as a consequence and became a film composer. For those of you on the Google Meet, you may not hear this because Google will probably cancel it out. So I don't know if you want to switch on YouTube for a sec. My phone is still off, which is annoying. I might give this to you, Allan, in a sec to see if you can heat it up. But my introduction to Quincy Jones was this rather extraordinary cover version of Superstition on his self-titled album, You've Got It Bad, Girl.
Writings on the wall, writings on the wall. Very superstitious, very superstitious. Ladders about to fall, ladders started to fall. 13-month-old baby, broken looking glass. 7 years of bad. The good things in your past. Wash your face in a rid me of the problem, to all that you can. Keep me in a daydream, keep it going strong. You don't want to save me, say it's my song.
I remember my dad, who was an avid record collector and very much a part of my musical journey, introducing me to that. He used to do this thing when he was driving this dodgy old Jaguar and he'd go, ooh, do-do-do, do-do-do. But something that I think is extraordinary about that cover version is one of the only pop songs or cover versions I know of that really heavily features the bass harmonica, which are... they're absolutely enormous and they have this incredible didgeridoo-like quality to them. But Quincy, I think, be sadly missed. I had one close-ish encounter with Quincy Jones. I was nominated for an Ivor Novello many, many moons ago, and I got kind of swindled out of some tickets by the organisers. I won't go into the reasons why, but in order to placate the injustice, they put me on the absolute best table in the house. And I had Elton John on one side, Quincy Jones on the other, and a bunch of other luminaries. And Quincy Jones got up to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award. And he said, you know, you cats know how to party in Britain. And since watching his documentary, what's incredible is he's been so successful, had such a kind of polymath career, but also was an epic shagger and a total pisshead, which is no offense to Quincy's family, but it's like he was going strong well into his 70s and 80s. So a good and bad example to us all. Sorry for the people watching on Instagram. This is possibly the worst live Instagram feed you've ever seen, because things keep on going wrong. I guess that something that I loved about Quincy was he lived and presided and was probably responsible for what I believe to be the golden era of session musicians in LA. And it's amazing in that documentary to see, like, if he wanted to get someone in, he'd just pick up the phone, whether that would be Eddie Van Halen doing a mad solo, or, there's a great documentary about the making of, Coke Zero, the making of We Are the World. And I think what was really interesting in that was the famous quote, which I believe is actually apocryphal, which is he put a sign up saying, leave your egos at the door. But it was really clear watching the documentary that it wasn't only just egos that he was dealing with. They were all hammered. But something I did notice was that he recorded this is just terrible. People are going to start tuning in on this just because it's like it's a car crash podcast. So what I noticed is that he just got 6 AKG C12s out. Have to go and teach Noah, sorry, I got distracted, and that's my ADHD squirrel. Noah, congratulations and thanks so much for your entry, and there are some goodies coming your way soon. There is another competition that we're starting based on the orchestral effects vaults, and I've just been doing the packaging for the next vaults. It's very, very exciting. The C12s. So he stuck a bunch of C12s around the group, and I think the decision there is because I believe C12s are Omni. Is that correct, Allan? I think so. Yeah. And I've actually been doing some research into microphones, and there was this big war between Neumann and AKG. AKG is an Austrian company, and there was this big rivalry, and Neumann absolutely ruled the world with the U47. If you see all of those Frank Sinatra pictures, he's always on a U47. So they made the AKG C12, which had an uncanny brightness for that era. So Quincy managed to persuade Frank Sinatra to try out the C12, which I believe he used to kind of oscillate between the U47 and C12 thereafter. But then when Frank welcomed Elvis into his kind of fold, he persuaded Elvis to switch to the C12 as well. And I recently saw up on my Instagram, actually, I put it on my story, a picture of Frank Sinatra with a C12, and you just think, oh, that was Quincy. Interestingly, the C12, just the capsule itself, had 100 different parts that had to be hand assembled. So it wasn't scalable as a microphone, which is why the C414 and the C12 is a whole bunch of different microphones that have been called the same thing. But a C12 that you buy today is not the same as the $10,000 C12 that you'll get off eBay. So that's that story there. But yeah, the golden era of session musicians and that particular sound that Quincy gave to everything. And I found out recently, I don't know if you guys know this, but Gimme the Night, which was that amazing, very Quincy arrangement for George Benson, that was also written by Rod, is it Templeton? Temperton, who's this Yorkshire, well, kind of northern bloke who speaks like that. And he wrote Gimme the Night, but he also wrote Thriller, which is extraordinary. So there we go. So joined by some familiar faces. Jay, are you still in Guatemala? You're very quiet. Have I kind of silenced it, do we think? Can someone else try their microphone? Say Kent.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, Jay, it's something at your end. We can't hear you. Yeah, it's that bloody Rode microphone. I hate to be rude about Rode, but Rode make some really good microphones, and they also make really, really shit microphones. And I can't imagine being part of their marketing department. You know, we've got this new product, and does someone put their hand up and go, is this one of our shit products or one of our really, really good ones? Jay, that microphone is actually quite good, the one that you've got there. I can see it. Ockpill, how are you doing?
Hello.
How's it going? Where are we speaking to you from?
I'm in Portugal.
Oh, yes. And how is it out there?
Well, at the moment, it's starting to actually feel like November. I was there at the Audio Inc. Thing last week, and it was pretty cold, while here in Portugal it was incredibly sunny.
Yeah. It's like we've got really clear nights here and we can see meteors and stuff, which is rare for an island as light polluted as Britain. But fuck me, it feels like winter up here in Edinburgh. It really is. And it's pitch black by 4:00 in the evening now. And we will be fast approaching the equinox, which I wanted to bring up. Not the equinox, the solstice. So the solstice this year is the same every year, December the 21st. If anyone fancies a composer walk up here, up Crow Hill in Edinburgh, I will put something up on the hub, something up on the forum, and I'll put a little banner up and an Eventbrite and all of that kind of stuff. We'll have a walk and then a drink afterwards. It's always quite nice to warm up the festive season with an absolutely freezing cold walk. So that's a bit of a fixture. Other things, if you've got your diaries out, some people have been asking about Crow Hill and Black Friday. We're not going to do sales. The reason for that being is we are very, very careful about the prices that we make our products. So what we don't do is we're going to charge £400 for that, and we know that that's going to be discounted hugely at various points throughout its lifetime. I think it's really unfair on the people who make the samples. I think it's unfair on the musicians. But also something that I've learned, I think the hard way, is the amount of work, effort and resources and waste that goes into marketing massive sales, all of the manpower, all of the graphic design, this, that and the other, for something that is so transitory. And it's just a bunch of materials that you throw down the drain. I've decided with our this new business model that sales is not the way to go. Having said that, we're going to have a lot of fun on Black Friday, and we have figured out ways of rewarding the people who have supported us, everyone that's here, and there's going to be a really amazing release. So if you've saved up for Black Friday, then we will have something that will be on promo, but that'll be just a standard promo release, and it's really awesome, and it's going to get lots of chins wagging. It's with someone very famous in our world, and I'm delighted to say that I'm going to be joined in 2 podcasts' time by that person. I'm going to be doing that in Los Angeles. I might put a little vote up to see if anyone is willing to go for a walk in Los Angeles if you're in that area. But I'm aware that it's basically on the Thanksgiving Black Friday weekend, and that's kind of family time. So I don't want to drag people away from their families. But if you can put it into your diary that it'll be 7 p.m. GMT. The podcast won't be on the Thursday, it will be on the Black Friday, and it will have an exclusive interview which will be live, so you can ask them questions, and who that person is will become obvious as we start teasing stuff over the forthcoming days and weeks. We're also going to do a tombola, because why not, alongside lots of celebratory stuff, and we're introducing some new stuff in Crow Hill that we again hope will be a continued love letter to the music making community. But our plan is, and I can't promise it's going to be the same forever, you never know, things might go terribly wrong and I might have to pull a lever, but my plan is not to do sales. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. I think that our prices are fair, and I'd rather, I don't know, I'm going to say it, I bought Waves Mercury at full price. I think you know the rest of the story there. I actually took out a bank loan to pay for that, convinced that it was going to advance my career. It didn't, and then it was on sale for half that price the following week, and I felt egregious about it. So that's my kind of view on that stuff. If anyone wants to chime in, stick your hand up here, stick it on Slido, and Simon will get in touch with me on Slack. Does someone have their hand up? That noise was a hand up. Yeah, Jay, how you doing? No, you're still incredibly silent. And I can see that there isn't the blinky that suggests there is signal going into your thing. Did see the hand go up and heard that though. No. It's brilliant. Whenever I do these like Zoom calls with like directors and post-production departments, it's always the composers and the sound guys who haven't worked out how to switch their microphones on. I know why that is. It's because we're all rooted with very complicated stuff, which is why I'm very thankful to Allan, the producer behind camera here, for setting everything up so smoothly. Welcome. Is it Charles? You've got a glare over your name, so I can't see. Composer walk on Solstice. I'll do a little bit of a poll on socials for if people want to go for a wander up to the observatory in LA. Possibly some drinks afterwards. I'm making no bones about the fact that I've recently become sober. So if I organise these events, do be forewarned that I'm the king of the French exit now. 53 days sober, and at some point I'm going to do a very boring monologue about all of that. But I think it's an important subject because alcoholism and the music industry are familiar bedfellows. I also wanted to just take this opportunity to thank everyone for their amazing feedback on the orchestral Blagsheet. And boy, how much of that did I get wrong? So much so it's really, really spurred me on to continue with the Blagsheets. So again, I'm just going to show you my screen. If we go to, again, if you just go to the homepage in Crow Hill, and there's a little banner that will take you to the hub. There's all sorts of stuff going on there, not least this Blagsheet cheat cards where everyone can contribute. What I'm hoping is to credit everyone who does get a contribution included within their the Blagsheet, and I will get them a free poster as well. This is all going to be part of the Blagsheets. Basically, if I go back to the homepage, I'll show you what I mean. These are totally available for free as PDFs, and they sit nicely on your phone as little get out of jail cards. So if you go to Blagsheets there, you'll be able to view them straight away, and they look kind of cool on your, and they're SVGs, which basically mean they're limitless zoom, so you can go right in there. And I want to show you what I've been working on, because my evenings are very free now because I'm not down at the pub. I've been really getting hardcore into Blagsheets, and one of you asked about, would it be good to do a Blagsheet for microphones? And I think I'm going to get shouted at here because I've done a selection of microphones that I think should make the Blagsheet, and I know people are going to go, but what about the Sonox this, and what about this brilliant Rode mic that I'm using out in Guatemala? Sorry, Jay.
Rode.
Oh, yeah, Rode.
I got the solution.
Okay.
Jesus. Don't have Logic open and then getting a Google Meet on your browser just doesn't work.
Never have Logic open, ever, unless you're using
for
it.
anything.
It is so...
I am.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you're sitting there watching Netflix, and suddenly I'm going to do an impersonation of Logic when it's on, and you're doing something else. Fucking hell! I know I've turned the audio device off. That'll lead me on in a minute to a question someone's asked me on Instagram about laptops. But working on one pedals, because I'm not a guitarist, excuse me, Coke Zero, it really does, it's gassy. Because I'm not a guitarist, I'm hoping that Theo and Robbie, who are both guitarists, are going to do an awesome video about the differences between overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. I've been looking into it and researching it, and it's interesting. The word overdrive and distortion it's a little bit like xylophone and glockenspiel. I think are words that should be swapped around, because a glockenspiel sounds like a xylophone and vice versa from an onomatopoeic point of view. Same with overdrive and distortion. I always thought overdrive was the heavy one and distortion wasn't, but I think it's the other way around. So working on that. Hope you approve of the selection of pedals that I've done there, not named. But I will invite you guys to contribute to that as and when it's a little bit further down the line. Let's have a look at the microphones. Ooh. And this is all drawn by hand in this thing called Figma that I've completely fallen in love with. But if you look here and we double click on that, look, each little line all drawn. So I'm going to take you through what I've selected as my 12 mics. I wanted to do the ones you'll find in every studio, and then I've just at the end just shown some ones that are just slightly unusual. 57, I don't think we're surprised there, nor are we with the 414. There's a 4038 Coles, the RE20, which is this mic. I'm going to do a video about this mic because I think that after the SM57, for people recording at home, this actually might be the go-to mic because it's so good at shutting out noise around it. But it's got, as you can see, it's incredibly flat frequency response. And I've also noticed that back in the day, people like James Brown would do their vocals through it and stuff. The U47, it's the FET one we see there. That's not a 4038, C12, you'll see it's a work in process. The Rolls-Royce, the M50, which has a tiny, tiny capsule in the middle. U67, the AEA 440. And then basically because it is so common on location, this Sennheiser, the Coles announcer mic, which I've actually got one on order. Look, it's got such tiny frequency response. I've got one on order because I'm fascinated with really, really up-close sampling. and I've had this idea for years and years of doing a super, super up close recording of a music box, like a tiny one. And then I want to reamp it in an auditorium so that you can see what it would sound like to be a giant standing inside a music box. And I think the Coles might be the way forward, because it has this tiny, because of the way it's a pressure capsule, it has this tiny area where it really picks up stuff to its optimum, albeit limited response. And this guide here at the top is basically guides you to where that optimum position is. So I love the idea of this thing almost pressing up against a music box or piano strings, stuff like that. And then the KU100 I thought would be worth including because it's quite an unusual mic, but also very much teaches us a lot about sound. I think what's very interesting about the frequency response there is I think that's the nose or the head shadow causes a dip there. So I've been working on the mics. I'm going to throw that open for people to add to over the next week. And so keep an eye on the hub, also our socials, and on the forum. But also, when we do YouTube videos, I always like to envisage how many people we've played to with that YouTube video. And I played in, I think, pretty much all sized venues, including a kebab shop in Earl's Court, all the way to the Indira Gandhi Stadium. So for me, it's really nice to actually imagine the number of people who have maybe watched a video. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to get some venues up on the wall? I went, Blagsheet. So this is what I've been working on.
I have a question, Christian.
Yeah.
When I got on, I happened to hear that you were going to go to LA at some point. When are you going to be doing that?
I'm going to be doing that weekend of Thanksgiving, Black Friday through to Monday the 2nd.
Well, if it's worth it to you, have your people, because your people have my email.
Okay.
Dave Royer is a friend of mine.
Ah.
And the president of Mojave is a friend of mine. I'm actually a sponsored artist for those guys, and that I'm just telling you that in general. What I do for them is irrelevant, but I've been consulting with them for years. So if you want to meet them personally, let me know through your people.
Absolutely.
I'll call Dusty Wakeman is the president of the company at Mojave, and I'll call Dusty because he wants me to call him about something else anyway.
Okay, great.
And make sure that when you get in town, he will take your call, and then you can go into the factory.
Brilliant.
I don't live there anymore. I left L.A. in 2014. I'm a retired film and television actor, and I got a belly full of that. So that's a long story and too many war stories. But the point is, the real point is that I want to make sure that you are able to meet these guys. David is, he has, what do you call it? Not altruism, autism. He's high spectrum, by his own admission.
Yeah.
He's high spectrum autism. And probably one of the most brilliant individuals I've ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of brilliant people along my various questionable travels. So have your people, do you want me to just give you the email now and you can write it down? Or I don't mind if the other guys get it. So
the last YouTube video, 3,500 people watched, so I would probably err against that, Charles, but I really appreciate it. But we've got your email, so I'll reach out you directly.
Yeah, just tell somebody to look up Chazbox2 and the rest is there. Chazbox2, CHASVOX2 at mac.com. And I'll be delighted to make sure you have that connection.
Great. Thank you so much. I might have to go back to the Blagsheet and include those microphones on it now.
Well, I'm not trying to sell the mic. It's just the point. But I test them all the time. They send them to me, and then I do some kind of because I do a lot of voiceover work and narrate audiobooks, and so I test their microphones for them. And if you go to their site, you'll hear samples of what I did for them. It's just a very interesting company and really brilliant people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Charles, what is your go-to mic for audiobooks out of interest?
Well, right now I'm using a mic that Dusty sent me. It's an MA50.
Right.
But I also they make a dynamic mic, which I use from time to time. I had an MA300. I had the MA301. They have, I think there's an MA1000, which is I guess it's the rough equivalent of the extremely expensive telephone gun.
I see.
It's like 15 grand or something for the telephone gun. But for voiceover, that's irrelevant. You might want that if you're recording a cello section. But in terms of voiceover, what I have is, I don't know what I sound like to you right now, but that's what I'm using is the MA50. But I'm really moving away from the voiceover stuff and writing music 100% of the time, using, by the way, all of your Crow Hill stuff from time to time. I think I bought everything that you've got. I dearly love what you're doing. I've learned a hell of a lot about composing just by listening to your tutorials. I think I said that David is one of the more brilliant people I've met, and I will, in front of these gentlemen, unabashedly say that so are you. I don't know you personally, but in terms of what I've seen, I'm extremely impressed. And I've worked in studios in Nashville and LA, and believe me, I've been around a lot of dumbbells too. So. Anyway, enough blather.
Thanks,
so yeah, have your people contact me. I'll send them the details.
That's absolutely brilliant, Charles. And if anyone just wants to just stop me from talking and come in, please just interrupt me. That's the whole point of having you. I just don't want there to be any dead air. Do feel if you've got anything to add, please just either stick your hand up or switch your microphone or fix your mic like Jay did.
Yeah, I'll stay on and listen, but I'll shut up now.
Well, I just want to show off the different venues that I've done. So Carnegie Hall here. So what I've selected for venues is Ronnie Scott's. So I've done it by size, in size order. Ronnie Scott's, Whiskey A Go-Go, Bataclan, Sydney Opera House, which is a rather gorgeous building, Carnegie Hall, what I would always call the Hammersmith Odeon. And this is, beneath this bridge is where I learnt to drink in Hammersmith. Royal Albert Hall, Red Rocks, which I visited once. I've not been to a concert there. I don't know if any of you have. Apparently it's got this amazing natural acoustic, which gives kind of feedback to the people who are performing there, which is probably quite unique for an arena of that size. I just visited it because you could just go in when there isn't a concert. So fabulous setting. Hollywood Bowl, which I'd never been to, Madison Square Garden, which became quite famous a couple of weeks ago, the O2 Arena, and Wembley Stadium. It's kind of quite Anglo-centric with the exception of Bataclan, and would really appreciate your input there. When I put this up, basically I was hoping to put up like what the loudest gigs were at each of them, but actually that kind of information is very difficult to come by. So I'm wondering if people have any experience of either being there, performing there, or if you know anyone who works there, if we can get some nuggets of like trivia, I think that would be really fascinating. I think what will really work with these Blagsheets is if they are a collaborative effort. Otherwise, it's me Googling or going to my companion of music and copying and putting swear words in where there are big words that I don't understand. So that's venues. So basically, I'll announce that on social media, and hopefully we'll get most of these out as posters if people want to get them for their walls, but they're PDFs that are available to download. And as I say, they've got an endless zoom, so you can go in and neagle out the information that you need. Okpil, that's not your real name, is it?
No, it's my professional name because I'm not English or American, so I decided I'd create a name that is potentially easier to pronounce. So yeah.
What's
My
your
name
real
is-
name?
Philippe.
I'm Portuguese as well, so
Yeah.
I was wondering why did you change your name? But Philippe, it's a really great name as well. So
Yeah, but my reasoning was there's a million people with my name. There's 0 people with this name. So if they type
And
that on
it's
Google, I'm the only one they'll get.
yeah. Okay, what type of music do you do?
Oh, I do a bunch of it. I do mainly music for games, but now I got into sampling a few years ago thanks to Piano Book and all that kind of stuff.
And then, sorry guys.
No, carry on.
But in what part of Portugal are you?
I'm up north in Porto.
Ah, okay, I'm in Lisbon, so okay. We should meet sometime, okay? Okay.
Actually,
Sorry, guys.
it's funny that Christian just mentioned sampling a music box because that's what I literally just released last week.
Okay.
So actually, I still have it. Here.
Oh, I know that one.
It's one of these. You get the paper. So I sampled it and I did a bunch of warped sounds with it. So you get the pure sound, but you also get a bunch of stuff. But I would love the idea of seeing like a full amped up version of it, like contact mics and then it blowing out the speakers. That would be amazing.
I've got a friend who's doing a stadium tour at the moment. I'm trying to persuade him to. I tell you what, the reason why I like the idea of a music box, and I've never really investigated it, but in this country, we have ice cream vans. And they have, I think the technology is probably a music box that's got a pickup on it that then goes out of these horns at the top. And the idea is it calls all the kids from the neighbourhood. And if you're in Scotland, it calls all the people who want to buy drugs, in Glasgow anyway, which is why it's the murder capital of Europe. There's a very interesting, if you want to Google the ice cream wars, that I think would make a very interesting Scorsese-esque film. That's me not going to Glasgow ever again. The tourist board are going to be on me. But there's something just so incredibly demonic sounding about something tiny being projected out of horns, always distorted, and then just banging off the side of like project council estates and stuff. It's quite a genuinely alarming sound. So that's what's inspired me to do this music box experiment. And I'm trying to persuade my friend to let me put it through his PA system at one of the stadia that he's playing. But also got my eyes on Usher Hall, which is an incredible hall. Jay?
You know, talking music boxes, I just remembered of a thing I saw the other day. It's a music box, but you plug it in through MIDI. So you can play it with a keyboard. I just sent the link on the chat here. It's amazing. It's ridiculous. It's a music box.
So it's an actual music box.
Yeah. Like it has a little dome, and you can see the music box. And I just sent the link here so you guys can see it. Or if you want to pull it up, Christian. It's a music box, but you plug it into a MIDI controller, and then you play it with a keyboard, and that's it. And it has this box that you put it on, and it works as an amplifier, or like a resonance box. It's ridiculous. It's like expensive also, but speaking music boxes,
I so want that. We should do we should do a sweepstake on how quickly they sell out now that you've mentioned this.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and they're coming up with like a big one apparently. Like they have a small one and there's a big one coming up. But yeah, I saw it somewhere on YouTube and it was ridiculous. I was like, where do I get this and why do I want 7?
Kent, you put your hand up.
Yeah, everyone's talking about sampling. There's a horror project that I'm doing that has gotten me in the sampling mood. And there's something that I purchased because I saw a YouTube video of it and I was like, oh, that's got to be mixed somehow. And it's the death whistle. Have you ever heard of these?
No.
So basically, it's based off of an ancient instrument from the Aztecs way back when, and it was used for war and ritualistic purposes. The idea is if you were to blow into this, it's the exact same frequency as a scream.
Yeah,
There's
it
no
is. It's
There's
horrible.
no on, like, if you'll indulge me,
look.
I'll blow your speakers, but
It's brilliant. Google wasn't having it at all.
Yeah, the noise reduction.
It was brilliant. We got all the transient and all the stuff, but just not the tone. That's why I don't understand why they play fucking bagpipes all the time up here in Scotland. For the first year that I lived here, I thought it was kind of cool. But these things are designed to you blow them up, and they're designed to scare the living shit out of English people from a distance. And therefore the sound is not, pipes, lovely. I'm so going to get driven out of Scotland after referring to Glasgow like this and dissing. Next thing I'll do is start talking about how horrible Iron Brew is. But no, bagpipes. Pipes are lovely, but bagpipes are designed as they're an instrument of terror. Literally an instrument of terror. And you'll walk up Crow Hill and there'll be someone practicing. And it just, I guess it's genetically engineered into me as an Englishman to run not for the hills, literally for the lowlands. Charles, are you holding your hand up?
Just a quick footnote to the bagpipe story. Do some research. Lord Lovett, you ever heard of him?
No.
Okay, look up Lord Lovett on Google. He was a commander in World War II in the invasion of Normandy. And matter of fact, the footage that a lot of people see where the ramp goes down and the Brits are going into the beach, those are his people, and he's actually in that, but he's a little bit ahead. You can hardly see him. But he had a guy who was blowing the pipes for him, and he told the guy, I want you blowing the pipes when we invade the beach. And he had him actually do this. And there's a big scene in a movie that was made. I'm 81 years old. I don't mind telling everybody that. There was a movie made years ago called The Longest Day, and there's a big scene. Peter Lawford, I think, played Lord Lovett. And there's a big scene of this bagpipe guy walking along, blowing the bagpipes while they're invading the French coast. But Lord Lovett is his name, who, by the way, is a very interesting guy. Enough of that blather, but just about the bagpipes. And I do have one question. Since I do voiceover, and I've thought a lot about, well, what could I do? I know I can sample my voice. That's not even the point. But my question, which is kind of academic, if I sample my voice, I don't know what I would be doing. I mean, I used to be a studio singer, so I thought, well, maybe I could just do tones or expressions or whatever, but I don't know about the usefulness of such a thing.
Oh, no.
I'm just throwing that question out and I would be glad to share samples of it with any of you if you wanted, but that's not the point. I just don't know exactly what to do. And I know how to sample, but frankly, I'm writing a lot of cues for a company in LA, and I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and do a lot of sampling. So I'm just opening that up. I'm going to shut up.
Well, no, not at all, Charles. My brother, Keaton Henson, if you haven't checked out his music, is really, really good. His last album, which I was told not to listen to because it's all about my dad getting very ill, and he's since passed away. But my dad was a bass baritone, and he did a lot of deep drones for Keaton, and it's really cool. So that's something that I would suggest. If you could do with your voice what Colin Stetson does with his saxophone, I would buy that sample pack or use it in a heartbeat. Kent, you raised your hand.
I was just going to say that one of my favorite things to do with samples in general, which is something that could help you with your voices, is just take those raw samples, throw them into either your DAW's sampler or to a third-party sampler, and just Bob's your uncle until you get I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. Just experiment until you get something cool. I recently recorded something with Alice a few months ago, and I have a folder of just random horrific aleatoric stuff that she did, I took a few of them and shoved them into Omnisphere and recreated this really weird, low, droning, hellish landscape, just from twiddling a few knobs and just seeing what worked and playing around with the granular, just to kind of get some. Because you can take something organic and pure and just ever living, F it up in in synth world. That's usually my favorite approach to that.
Well, I'm willing to collaborate with any of you if you want to get in touch with me, and we can work out the details if you want to do that. So, anyway,
hit the forum, guys. I think that sounds amazing, Charles. Philippe, can I ask you what microphone you ended up using for your box, your music box?
Yeah, I can share the link over here on the thing if you guys want to check it out. It's free, so it's all good. I used 2 KM184s, but what I ended up doing, because it's a very small thing, it doesn't resonate very much. So what I did was I put it inside one of those big wine crates, the wooden ones. And so I sort of, instead of recording this, I recorded the box itself. And so that really gives you like a very, very, it's still close miking technically, because they are very close, but you get a very warm and round sound instead of the very tinny thing. And so it also lent itself perfectly to process and create more stuff out of. What I would like to do eventually would be to get a bigger music box. So this is, I think, 16 notes, but you can also get DIY music boxes with, I think, 32. And so it would be great to get one of those and sample it with like contact mics or hydrophonic mics, sample it under different sort of scenarios, and get a really wide palette of sounds out of this tiny thing. I think that'd be really interesting.
Philippe, let me send you my samples of my dulcitone, which sounds like a bass music box. You might want to play around with layering that or making that part of the range as well. Let me send that to you. We are not seeing the different links, but basically I'm hoping maybe Simon, if you could take those down and we can put them out in the next network dispatch, and also shout out to Charles, who's offered up his dulcet tones as a potential collaboration. Philippe, yeah, that's great. I mean, this has been absolutely fantastic, and this is what it's all about. And Philippe, I don't know if you agree, but I felt that the Piano Book meeting was really good and should be something that we don't leave too long next time. Not everyone can make it over to London, but something that very much came up as an idea in Piano Book is the idea of having local groups who are provided with some funds to be able to get together and not just get together with other samplists, but also artists and kids and stuff to just really, kind of, I think that something that's wonderful about sampling is it makes you think of sound very differently. And I think that that's a very interesting thing. But also, when we met, it was it the night of the election or the eve of the election? I think it was the night of the election, wasn't it? Or
either the night or the following day. Because I remember Owen flying in, and when he was flying, they were starting to count the votes. That's
right. He would have got an interesting. Well, anyway, but what I was going to say was, there's the spirit that very much came out of that meeting is whatever us humans can do to come together. Where there's music, there's harmony, and I think in both a musical sense, but also a literal sense. And that's something that I think has been the really surprising aspect of Piano Book is the friendships that have been made. And it was wonderful to see Owen. I don't know if you tune in on this, Owen. This is Owen Bolig, or Oberlig as we call him, but we now know it should have been Obelig, who's been an amazing contributor to Piano Book, and he had some great ideas too. Going to keep you posted and keep you abreast of all of the stuff that's developing on Piano Book. We've got this collaboration that's going on. Again, if you go to the hub, there's information about that. Would really appreciate contributions to that. But also, I got fired off an absolutely massive project about 2 years ago. Wonder what that coincided with. And I spent about 100 grand on sampling orchestras doing science fiction effects. And I thought, why don't I just put that out as a library for Piano Book, so that we can get some funding behind it, so we can move things along without something that came up. And if you haven't watched the we recorded the event, if you haven't watched it yet, something came up was the reason why it had gone a bit stagnant and stuff, and the reason why I had handed custodianship of it over. And it was that classic thing of what's called a success problem, which basically means when something becomes so successful, it becomes difficult to scale, difficult to grow, and very expensive. And we're delighted to have it back, but we don't want to make that same mistake again of getting some kind of VC in or something like that. I know that there are good VCs and bad VCs, but I'd like for us to as a community, make the right decision there. And I think by pulling some funds in, by offering up some amazing exclusive samples with some, voluntary payments. So how much you think it's worth, you pay. What you can afford, you pay. And I know that some incredibly generous, slightly, composers who have a bit of cash, who really appreciate the efforts, and I'm sure they will be generous. So that's an update there. I'm going to get called across to scream at my children to go to bed so that I don't have to drag them out of bed in the manner that I did this morning. So I just want to recap on we've got the... We'll be same place, same time next week. So do come along, and just do come along to interrupt and get talking amongst each other. And the week after, we won't be on a Thursday, we'll be on Black Friday. And that is going to be a really fun, exclusive personal appearance from someone who has given our community so much, and we're very excited to be doing a collaboration with, alongside a tombola with lots of prizes. It'll be the first sober tombola, but maybe I'll be a bit more understandable and a little bit less silly, but no less fun, hopefully. Fun Bobby and all that. The other thing is, Charles brought up the Longest Day. If you haven't seen that film, it's a must-see. It's the reason why old fellas really hate CGI, because you have never seen so many extras. The scale of that movie is unsurpassable, not least because it has literally every single famous person that was alive in Hollywood that was a bloke appears in that film as well. It's just got absolutely everyone in it. And it's a pretty extraordinary film that has stood the test of time and is well worth looking at. So, Charles, thanks for reminding me of that, and I might have it on in the background next time. So I'm going to bid you all for... I'm
going to brag very briefly.
Okay, here comes... I feel an anecdote coming.
My father was the commanding officer that had the first airfield built right after the invasion, right off the coast.
Wow.
And I didn't even know, he never talked about the war. I didn't know that until I moved from LA up here, and I got a box of old stuff. And I cried when I saw the documents that told me. I was so moved by it, because he never talked about combat. Never.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a lot of family who were in the war, and one uncle who was on that. Was it called the Long Walk, where they built the railroad in China? I mean, the stuff he must have seen must have been, but he never ever mentioned
Malaysia. It was in Malaysia.
Malaysia, that's right.
Yeah, are you talking about Bridge on the River Kwai type of stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another great movie. All right, I'm going to leave it there for this week. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please come back every week, air your views and stuff. And I look forward to people shouting at me about the microphones that I've missed and the venues that I've forgotten about, and the fact that they're all either in America or Britain. So keep an eye on social media, keep an eye on the forum, keep an eye on the hub, and just loads of love. I can't tell you how much I enjoy this, and hope we can just keep it going. So love to you all. See you next time. I'm going to play you out with a bit of... so Allan, take me through this. This is Frank Sinatra with Count Basie's band. And why are we playing this?
So Quincy Jones is conducting it.
Right.
And he did the arrangements.
So arranged by Quincy Jones, who is conducting it. So enjoy this. And I'll see you in a week's time. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, and let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. With song, let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
I've just discovered